So students, from today onward we are just going to start the new chapter, that is reproduction in flowering plant, the chapter second from your textbook, reproduction in flowering plants. As we have completed the process of reproduction, the general introduction of reproduction in the previous chapter, I think you all have the complete idea about the basic modes of reproduction, whether it is asexual reproduction or the sexual reproduction. And now only we are just moving toward the reproduction in the flowering plant, means we are focusing only on the sexual reproduction or mode of sexual reproduction, how the plants are performing the sexual reproduction, how they are just going to mate the seed, how they are just going to germinate the seeds. Everything will cover in this chapter. So without wasting our time, we are just going to start with the chapter we are just going to start with the topic how they are just going to perform the sexual reproduction. So remember, the sexual reproduction in flowering plants we are just starting with means what? We have to go with the structure, that is flower. Flower is actually considered as site of sexual reproduction. Site of sexual reproduction means when the flowering plants are there, so flower is only the structure which is responsible for the flowering only. So what is flower? You all knows about that flower, but you may have different type of the definition in your mind, you may have different type of the concept about the flowers in your mind. But the very important thing, I'm just going to define the flower. What is that? According to the Goethe, flower is nothing, only it is a modified suit which consists of all necessary reproductive structures. Are you getting the meaning of this definition? Because why modified suit is given? Just we are just going to make the enhancement or make focus there on the suit. Just remember, when the seed is going to germinate, some part of the plant is going to move on the above the soil, and some of the part just goes below the soil. The part which remains below the soil is going to form the root system, and secondly the part which present above the soil is going to form the shoot system. The shoot system modified variously to give rise is stem, branches, and here now you can understand well the flowers also. So what we can say, the flower is nothing, only it is a kind of modified suit which is adopted for the purpose of reproduction. So is it clear to you all? Now we are just going to understand what is the structure of a typical flower. Structure of typical flower. Structure of a typical flower. Typical flower, I'm not going to discuss the structure of different type of the flower. We are just going to discuss a structure of a flower which have the ideal part, ideal structure which is having which is present in all sort or all type of the flowers. So what is the structure of flower? So before moving into the internal structure of flower, we are just observing the additional structure, the peripheral structure of the flower, just like that. What are the parts present in the flower? Just understand. So I'm just going to start with the parts of flower. Very easily you can understand. The number one, the first part of the flower is called as receptacle, or we can say it as thalamus, or it may be known as torus. The first part, which is very important in the floral structure, is receptacle or thalamus or torus. What is receptacle or thalamus or torus? So the main part of the flower from which originates all floral structures, all floral structures, main part of the flower which originates all the floral structure. So once again the question arises ki then what is specific there in the thalamus by which or due to which it is going to give rise all the floral structure. So my dear student, you knows very well the plant tissues which are able to divide and which are able to convert in any kind of the structure, they are made of some meristematic tissues, and the condensation or accumulation of the meristematic tissue is known as nodes. So here also you must remember the receptacle is the condensation of nodes. So due to the presence or appearance of the node, due to the condensation of the nodes, receptacle is responsible for giving rise all the floral structure. So is it clear to you all how the receptacle is responsible, why the receptacle is having capacity to give rise the floral structure? Because this is made of the nodes only, and nodes are having the capacity of division, that is why. So next structure, I'm just going to explain with the help of a diagram, because I'm not going to move into the internal structure, but we must understand what is receptacle and what other structure that I'm just going to discuss here. Suppose a stem is there, and this is axial bud or axis from where the flower has to originate, and here the structure from which all the floral part originate, that is called as thalamus. This is the structure from where all the floral parts will get originate. That we'll discuss later what other floral parts are there. The objective behind to discuss this structure here, because I'm just going to make some more structure clear. This node, this thalamus is the accumulation of which structure? Node. And you knows very well the axis is also made of nodes, because there is axillary buds present. Axillary buds are also the accumulation of the nodes. So nodes, when they divides, they will produce a kind of segment which is made of what? Internodes. Are you getting my point? So just between the nodes and the thalamus, a long segment of the flower or long segment of the flower is present, that is called as pedicel. So always we are having a concept that in between the nodes a internode is present. So pedicel is present as a part of internode here. Pedicel is present as a part of internode. So is it clear to you all? The thalamus is made of node and pedicel is made of internode. So what is pedicel? So next structure is pedicel. In a flower, the next structure is pedicel. Pedicel is a connecting stalk of flower to the axis. Pedicel is what? Connecting stalk of the flower to the axis. If the flower bears, sometime the flower is having pedicel and sometime the flowers are directly going to associate with the axial buds. So if the flower is having pedicel present there, so that time they are called as pedicellate flowers. And similarly, if they are not having pedicel, they will be considered as non-pedicellate. I think it is clear to you all, pedicellate and non-pedicellate. Okay, the next structure of the flower, third one is bract. Bract is a small leaf-like portion present at the base of pedicel, a leaf like structure present at the base of pedicel. This is not compulsory that all the flowers should have the bracts. If the flower is having bracts, so they will be considered as, they will be called as bracteate flowers, and they will be referred as BR, expressed as BR. If they are not having bracts present there, so they are considered as ebracteate. Means if bract is present, then this is called as bracteate flower. If bract is absent, so bract absent, and bract present. I think it is clear to you all. Bract is a small leaf-like structure present at the base of. Some more leaf-like structures are present in between the thalamus and the axis of the flower, or the base of the flower. Means they are present on the pedicel. Such kind of the leaf-like structures are called as bracteoles. The leaf-like structure present on the middle axis or middle of the pedicel, they are called as bracteoles. Bracteole, if present, the flower will be considered as bracteolate. Similarly, and if it is absent, the flower will be considered as ebracteolate. So these all are the structure, external structure, where we have seen the receptacle or thalamus, which is made of completely the nodal segment. Nodal segment means it is having the responsibility to give rise all the floral structures. Then the pedicel part is there, which is joining the flower to the axis of the origin of the flower, that is made of internode. If pedicel is present, then the flower is considered as a pedicellate. If it is absent, then non-pedicellate. The bract, the leaf-like structure present at the base of origin of the flower, and bracteoles, a leaf-like structure present in between the in the middle region of the pedicel. Now moving into the inner structure. While discussing the inner structure, the flower is made of 4 whorls. Out of these 4 whorls, 2 whorls are considered as essential whorls, plus 2 non-essential whorls. Essential and non-essential means to say, the non-essential, which does not have any involvement. Firstly, we are just going to see the non-essential whorls. Non-essential whorl means the whorls which are not directly involved in process of reproduction. There are 2 whorls. Number 1 called as calyx, and second one is called as corolla. Just see, I'm just going to draw the diagram. Till here thalamus we knows well. The bottom portion is of pedicel. Here bracts, bracteolates. Now 2 whorls are there. So the outermost whorl is called as calyx. So we are starting with the calyx. the outermost whorl, fourth whorl, outermost structure of the flower, and usually green in color. This is also made of combination of many of the floral units. Individual floral unit are called as sepals. The unit of calyx. They are usually green in color. What is the function of calyx? So what is the importance or function of the calyx if it is non-essential? We are just saying it is non-essential because this is not involved in the process of reproduction, but it is very important for the floral structure because it is a protective structure which protect the floral structure in bud stage. Why this is important? Because this is going to protect the floral structure, other floral part in the bud stage. If it is not there, then this is very much difficult to find out the then it is very much difficult to care or to retain the floral structure. One more important thing, this is very important for the NEET examination. Sometimes the calyx is not green in color, instead this is a colorful structure. What I am just saying, this is important for the NEET examination. Sometimes the calyx is not green in color, instead it is colorful in structure. At that time this is called as petaloids, because this is similar to the petals. That is why this is called as petaloid. What is it means? Sometimes this is not green in color, that time this is called as petaloid. This is colorful sepal. What we can say, this is colorful calyx, or we can say colorful sepals. The individual unit of petaloid is called as stipules. The function is to reduce the transpiration So next structure of the flower is considered as corolla. The second structure, second part of the flower, corolla. This is colorful and fragrant part. Means the smell or fragrance of the flower is just because of the corolla. It is also a combined structure. The individual unit of corolla is called as petals. Remember, my dear students, sometimes the students are having a confusion while they are just going to cram the concept which structure is associated with the sepal, or which structure, the calyx, individual unit of calyx is what, or individual unit of corolla is what. So remember, cassi and copy. Cassi, calyx, corolla, and copy, corolla, petals. Calyx, sepal, corolla, petal. This is only a kind of mnemonics you can just remember, you can just use for remembering the concept. What is the importance of the second word? The corolla is attracting the insects by its fragrance or by its color for pollination. It attracts the insects for pollination. These two are considered as non-essential whorl. This structure is considered as corolla. Now third whorl starts. Firstly, I am just going to complete the diagram. The third whorl is called as androecium. And final and the fourth whorl which lying inside is called as gynoecium. Androecium and gynoecium. Now if we are just going to make this flower, so this is the structure of a typical flower. Okay, but before moving on to the androecium and gynoecium, we are just going to understand some more points about that. Sometimes what happens, calyx and corolla does not differentiate it from each other. That time they are making a combined structure that is called as perianth. Sometimes calyx and corolla does not differentiate it from each other. They are going to form a kind of floral envelope. Floral envelope made of calyx plus corolla. This is also a colorful structure. The individual unit of this one is called as stipules. Okay, so is it clear to you all? Now we are moving on to the next, that is what? The essential parts of the flower.
Start.
Now we are discussing the essential parts of a flower. There are two essential parts. One is androecium and second one is gynoecium. These two are the inner wall. And why they are essential? Because they are directly involved in the reproduction. So let's see one by one what is androecium and what is gynoecium. So the third word, androecium. Androecium is the third word. And male reproductive part of the flower. Remember, it is also made of combination of the unit. The individual unit of androecium is called as stamen. Individual unit is called as stamen.
Go.
Stamen is the male reproductive part which is associated with the pollen grain production. If we are just going to see the structure of stamen, very short, because very next we are just going to take the detailed structure of the stamen. The stamen is made of three different structure. The structure anther, then a small connective, and a long filament. Filament joins the stamen to the torus. Anther is the site of pollen grain production. Okay, so is it clear to you all? Now we are just taking the next part of the flower. The fourth one, the innermost one, is gynoecium. Gynoecium, gyne means related to the female. So gynoecium is the fourth.
Go.
So as we are saying, the gynoecium is the fourth one, or innermost wall of the flower. As just vice versa to the androecium, the female reproductive part, gynoecium is considered as the female reproductive part. The individual unit of the gynoecium is called as carpel or pistil. It is the site of egg production, fertilization and embryonic development. On the structural point of view, this is made of three structures: stigma, which receives the pollen grain; style, growth of pollen tube occurs from here; and ovary is the final site where inside ovary ovules are there, which are going to provide the site of fertilization. So this is the basic structure of gynosium. Remember, this is not necessary that both androecium and gynosium are present in any of the flower. If unisexual flower, then either androecium is present or gynosium is present. But if the flower is bisexual, then both androecium and gynosium are present. So I think it is very much clear to you all ki what is the structure of the flower. All four words you are made it clear. So after concluding the structure of the flower, I am just going to provide you some specific point, because we are moving ahead in the reproduction in flowering plant. So we must have to take care about some more plant, some more factors, some more point like that, which some terms are very much common that we are just going to use again and again. The term sporophyte. So sporophyte is the structure which is always diploid. It is the structure which is responsible for the production of gametophyte. So we can say whatever the vegetative structure of the plant is considered as the gametophyte. So after sporophyte, one more common term is there, that is gametophyte. Gametophyte, since produced by the sporophyte by the meiotic division, so it will be a haploid structure and it's responsible for the production of the gamete. Now these last 4 points is specifically for the NEET examination. You must take care of that. This is very important, very important questions for NEET. Anthophore. Anthophore, sometime what happened, the internodal length is increased between the two different sometime what happened, the internodal length is increased between two different floral structures. So if the internodal length is increased between calyx and corolla, if internodal length is increased between calyx and corolla, then this structure is called as anthophore. The example for anthophore is the dianthus. Secondly, androphore. Similarly, once we have just completed calyx and corolla, so now next word is what? Corolla and androecium. So if the internodal length is increased between corolla and androecium, then it is called as what? Androphore. The example for androphore is called as passiflora. Next one is gynophore. The third one, just similarly. Firstly, the length is increased between calyx and corolla, anthophore. The length is increased between corolla and androecium, androphore. Now third one is androecium and gynocium. So if the internodal length is increased between the androecium and gynocium, then it is called as what? Gynophore. The example for that is Caparis. Sometime what happen, both androphore and gynophore is present in a single flower. Both androphore and gynophore is present in a single flower. Such situation is called as gynandrophore or androgynophore. Are you getting my point? Anthophore, when the internodal length increase between two whorls, calyx and corolla. Second one, androphore, when internodal length increase between corolla and androecium. Gynophore, when internodal length increase between androecium and gynocium. But sometime what happen, both androphore and gynophore is present in the single flower. That time this is called as what? Gynandrophore or androgynophore. Are you getting my point? The example for that, Gynandropsis, Cleome gynandra. So this is all about for today's lecture. For tomorrow only we will start the internal structure of the male reproductive structure or male reproductive part of the plant. Thank you.